Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Venture Voice. I'm really happy to have you again, and I've gotten really good feedback about the whole podcast, the people that we have had. We have had Mashood, we have had Hashir from Bribeseed as well. And today we also have a really special guest with us, and we're going to discuss with him a lot of cool stuff. But this is going to be about crafting success stories. So let me let me tell you about one of the things that has caught my mind recently, and that is stories. And what I really like about today's guest, who is Riaz Raza, is his LinkedIn tagline, and that is I love making success stories. And that is like the key of what we are going to talk about today. So I'm just gonna introduce quickly what this podcast is going to have, and then we'll have Riaz on stage as well. So the goal of Venture Voice is to bring tech leadership and business leadership towards you, especially towards entrepreneurs and also tech leaders in the industry, to know about how people are making success stories, how they are evolving, how they are growing their businesses, and what are the key sort of factors that are going into their process and what have they learned throughout years. So I hope this podcast also brings you value. But just to introduce Riaz a bit, Riaz right now is a senior director of engineering at App Verticals. He has been a good friend. He has been in touch with me for years now. We used to work together in the same company as well. And he's one of those people that even if you meet after years, it feels like you have been in touch all the time. So without wasting more time, I'm gonna bring in Riaz on stage. So Riaz, here you come. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. How are you, Yasin bhai?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Alhamdulillah.
Awesome. It's really good to have you. And just for the sake of introducing yourselves to the audience, I want to ask you who you are, where you're from, and what are the few words that describe who Reaz is.
Right. So I'm like you mentioned. I'm currently working as a senior director at App Verticals, director of engineering as well as product success. And the later part is a title which I demanded for. Like all the other titles in my journey has been like titles which were handed over to me as part of promotions, but director of product success is something which I demanded for, and that's something which kind of defines me as well. I love creating success stories, and I find it really meaningful. I drive value for it in my life as well. So, be it professional, be it personal, I love creating success stories. And by success stories, it can be focused towards products, it can be focused towards customers, it can be focused towards employees, and it can be focused towards a little outside of the circle as well. So anyone who's out there trying to work on themselves, I love to connect with them and try to collaborate with them and create success stories. So that's like me. And yeah, so I was born and raised in Karachi, Pakistan, and have lived my entire life in Karachi. Have never been like relocated to any other place, and like educated from Karachi University. I believe you were from there as well,
Mhm.
and it's like a government institution, very basic level of university, but I learned a lot from there as well. So after that, I joined Coder Labs and App Verticals, and I've been working in App Verticals since then. I joined as an intern and associate software engineer, and with time, I got promoted to different titles and finally became senior director in early this year. So yeah, that has been my journey.
Awesome, and that's really interesting because I know I've seen people growing quite differently when it comes to their career. For example, my first company, which was Collective Wisdom or Callways, I had a senior engineer named Saad. We call him Saad Bhai, and he was this really geeky software architect with. And when I joined, it was my first day of internship. He had like 15 years of experience as a developer, and I think till today, even I think now it's 25 years of his experience, and he's still working as a software architect. But a lot of people move towards, success or growth or leadership opportunities or management, so to say. And you have had an impressive journey as well. So could you share what were your or one of your success stories that you have made recently with any of the products?
So there have been a lot, like ever since I changed my mindset about the thing that I want to do in my life, and that is creating success stories. Every product that I work on, I tend to create small success stories in those products. There's one product recently, and this is the product which I exemplify everywhere in my organization as well as in my circle, is that there was one product, and it was related to obituaries in US. So it was a website where people used to post obituaries and things like that. When I started to look after that project, it was a mobile application only, and the vision was the same thing. Like people wanted to post their obituaries for their loved ones, and other people used to see those obituaries and comment on them and those sort of stuff. Ever since I joined that project, I made a very simple change to understand, like, to measure the impact of the things that we were doing, and the impact that we had on that product. And I realized that although mobile application is a really good platform, but this product needs a web application as well, a website, because a lot of people go on search engine and search for opportunities there, and mobile application do not come to those searches in those search results. And that's
Mhm.
where this idea popped up, and we created a web app. It was a very simple web app which we built in around half a month and just launched it, because we already had all the data with us.
Mm,
So after the launch, after like 1 or 2 months after the launch, we realized that we had around 1 million visitors visiting that website in a month, which
mm,
was like huge. Although the mobile application had thousands of visitors as well, but 1 million was a benchmark which we hadn't even considered in our objectives.
mm,
So what I realized from that was that when your mindset is about creating success, you make small changes which sometimes have exponential results.
mm,
That became my inspiration to work towards success stories further, because I realized that it was a very small change which I wouldn't have done if I didn't have the right mindset.
mm,
But since I had the right mindset, I just made a very small effort, which was nothing compared to all the effort that we had put into that product before that. Like it
mm,
was a product that we were working on for 4 years,
mm,
and we had thousands of users on it. But
mm.
after we did a very tiny small change, we had millions of users in like no time. So that was a very revealing success story for me, and that kind of defined my career, I would say.
Interesting. Interesting. I can recall a few things from what you're saying. And my wife recently went to a workshop from a really famous person named Tony Robbins. I'm not sure if you know. But he's like all this high energy, success, unleashing your power. And he said something that was really interesting and resonated with me. And that is the kind of result that you want, you have to have a mindset one level above that. So if you want good results, you can't really do efforts that are good. You need to go one step above and do excellent. And then even above excellent is extraordinary or outstanding, so to say. And then the second thing that I just realized is that 80-20 rule that we know about, that your 80% of your success comes from the 20% efforts. And this tiny change that you did, I want to ask, did you have, while you were making this process or this change, did you have success as the key focus that you were trying to do, or was it this experiment that I'm gonna do this and let's see what happens? And that's I think is something really important that everybody needs to understand while we go through this. So what was your mindset then?
I think when you talk about success, you are inherently talking about value that you are delivering to your audience. So any person who is successful, or any success journey that you see, it's it's the baseline factor of it is value. the
mm,
value that you're driving from that product or from that for that customer or for your audience.
mhm,
And what I realize is that when your mindset changes from like trying to create results rather than it changes to creating value for the audience,
mm,
the results automatically start to come in. And
mm,
that's what I realized from this example as well. Like the moment I changed the thought to how we can add more value to our audience and the people who are looking for obituaries, that's when we started to get in results as well.
mm.
And ever since then, we have been like focusing on providing value, and I think that has turned into a really good thing for us.
Interesting. That's a really profound realization. Awesome. One quick question, and that's a sort of out of the syllabus question, but I want you to think about one thing or one struggle from your early days, be it your university or be it living in Karachi or your career, that you think was a struggle, but you overcame it, or and it can be anything that you can think of.
Um, I think there have been a lot of struggles which have made me who I am,
Mm-hmm,
and I tend to think that those struggles were the reason that I am the person who I am today.
mm-hmm,
And there's a lot more struggles that I have to overcome to get to higher levels for sure. That I'm not where I should be. That I feel. Um, so there have been a lot of struggles. Um, I think that one of the biggest struggle for me in university was the kind of syllabus that was getting taught to us, and that syllabus was like I think you might be familiar. So for the audience, like those syllabus things were so outdated that in the practical world, it was like completely outdated, and you couldn't use that syllabus to create any practical application. So
mm-hmm,
what I learned in my early days in university is that I have to do and learn things myself, and like that was kind of struggle because I didn't had any mentor or any person who I could take the guidance from.
mm-hmm,
But overcoming that struggle helped me realize that it's it looks difficult in the beginning, but it's not. When you get into it, when you start taking baby steps, it's not that difficult and you can overcome those things. So by the time I passed out, I had experience in a couple of technologies which were updated to the market, and it
mm-hmm,
was really easy to secure a job because of them.
mm-hmm,
But the things that my fellow students were learning from the university and only relying on them from the universities, those things were so outdated that a lot of them had struggled to find a job.
mm-hmm.
And so that has been a struggle, I think, as part of my early days professional career.
Interesting. I'm going to share about one of my struggles as well. But before that, since you mentioned how you used to overcome your struggle, I want to ask what has changed now. For example, if you learn something new today, if you're experimenting something now, what is the key difference? Because back then you didn't have a mentor. Has your approach changed now? Do you have like a learning buddy with you, or do you do something different?
I think what I learned over the years of experience is that you have to find your mentor, and it's not that difficult. Like there was a shy student inside me who used to feel embarrassed with approaching people,
Mm-hmm,
but now I recently I started taking marketing lessons and stuff. So I started doing marketing and learning marketing. So when I got involved in that, I was back to square one. I had no knowledge about marketing, and what I realized was that I was so far back that I had to learn a lot.
mm-hmm,
So what I started doing was to just message people on LinkedIn, like the very leaders of marketing field on
mm-hmm,
LinkedIn, and like scheduling meetings with them, and they were so kind and so generous. A couple of them have offered me to become my mentor, and
no.
like what I realized was that there are people out there to help you.
Mm,
You have to approach them, and you have to approach them in the right way.
Hmm.
and they'll be open to share their wisdom and knowledge with you to their fullest. Like people have been so helpful that they have been like taking me to places without me even asking,
Hmm.
and they have been like pushing me to come to those places when I didn't want to. So I think that has been the difference between the styles from my early days to now. Now I
Hmm.
rely and connect with people more than what I used to do back then.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think a true mentor also is someone who pushes you in some uncomfortable zones as well. And it's yeah, they don't just leave you be, and that's really interesting to know that there are mentors out there, and you just need to reach them out. And I think especially because everybody in today's era knows how struggling it is to be
Yep.
really good, and nobody wants others to feel the same way. So it's really nice that you have shared that. I'm gonna try
Yeah,
to yeah, sure.
what I've found is like the people who are on the very top are
Hmm.
actually hungry to teach other people. It's like I think it's one of the main factors which made them reach those places in the first place, that they want to give their knowledge to other people, and
Absolutely.
give the value to other people. So I found like they were very humble, as well as they were very open and like forthcoming to help,
Hmm.
even more so than I imagined. And that
Interesting.
makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the reason why they are at those places. So yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. I'm gonna share one image if I can find a way to do so. Yeah, this is the one. So talking about struggles, I think whenever I think about my own struggle, this is what I see. So if you those of you who don't really know, this is a bus from University of Karachi, and the guy that you see on the gate here, like a purplish indigo shirt, I've been in that exact place so many times, and it was like a one and a half hour ride from my small town Steel Town and Gulshan Nadi to the university, that I would be like having everyone on top of me, and was super yeah, frustrating as well. But I think it as Riaz said, there these are the struggles who make you who you are. And now that I live in Stockholm, I mean, everywhere people are complaining about things like this and that, or like, so it's snowy, my shoes got wet. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? I can reach from place A to B, and I know exactly when I'm going to reach that. That's the pure blessing for me. So
no, that's
it's really, yeah, it's really profound how you change your struggles or how you learn from them, and then it makes you super strong. um, Interesting. I want to ask you a question, Riaz. So when when you started your career, you were more of a developer, and then you also became a tech lead as well. But when did you decide that you're going to take a leadership role? Or was it, for example, a coincidence that you got it? Or when did you realize that you are going to now start measuring your impact as a leader?
Um, I think I'll try to give a little background on that,
Hmm.
and I won't jump directly to the leader role that I got.
Hmm.
Rather, ever since my childhood, I have been a person who has two really special things I like to believe. One was the enjoyment that I get from solving problems,
Hmm.
and the other was the urge to help people. Um, so I think these two things made it really enabled me to get into leadership position, because when I joined App Verticals and Coder Labs in 2015, I was an intern, and like within an year I was working on a project solo,
Hmm.
and then that project needed more people onto it, so I naturally was the go-to person
Hmm.
for that project. And due to the nature of the nature of helping people, I was really helping other people, which led me to a position where people started to look up to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And later on, that small group of people, like we were two, three people in the beginning, though the problems that those teams were facing, that team were facing, and the problems that management was facing, I took it upon me to solve those problems.
Hmm.
And I didn't imagine at that time that I am actually getting into leadership position until I realized that I haven't touched the code for last 6 months. And it was a very depressing moment for me, because I didn't realize that I have been so far from the code, like coding myself, that I haven't coded in like 6 months. But that's that's how I got into leadership.
Hmm.
I didn't. I would say that it was accidental, and I didn't knew what I was stepping into. But it was because I was trying to solve problems. I was trying to help people. I was trying to solve problems for my customers, for my management, and for my team,
Hmm.
and that automatically pushed me to a place where which is called leadership, I guess. So that's how it happened, and I'm
Hmm.
glad that it did,
Hmm.
because now I see that it like the impact that I would have had by remaining an individual developer would have been far less compared to what I can do in a leadership position, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Absolutely. We have a question from the chat as well, and it's from Faizan Khan. I'm pretty sure you know him from Coda Labs. So he's asking, what kind of books are in your shelf that you believe boost leadership skills?
So there have been a couple of books that I've been reading, like partly. I never complete a book in one go. So one of the favorite ones that I have is Leaders Eat Last, which is mainly on leadership and the sacrifices that you have to make for leadership. But what do you have on your shelf?
I have two interesting ones. They're not primarily targeted towards leadership, but I think they have shaped how I think about things and my mindset. So one of them is this Limitless with by Jim Quick. It's in summary, it talks a lot about the limiting beliefs that we have on how we grow, whether be it learning something new or becoming good at something. And I think it's a very generic book, but a lot of good examples on why people have succeeded the way they have. And I think the next one is this one, Atomic Habits. It's a very classic one. And to be honest, I stopped reading books years ago, and especially I think I was probably traumatized by our education system. I also had a lot of nightmares. Like, true, this is a true story. I had nightmares of me being in a room while I'm giving an exam, and I would just wake up from it, and it was super super, and I was so glad, okay, I don't have to give any exams now. I will never do it. But maybe there would come a time when I would willingly go out and do my masters sometime. But I recently started reading books maybe a year ago, and I have established a habit of at least spending some time, like an hour or two, at least per week. But I try to do it every other day. So these would be my go-to books: Atomic Habits. There's Limitless. There's also another book named Invisible Influence, which talks about how we are influenced by the society. For example, if you go to an empty ground to do a car parking, and you see that the car is parked in a certain way, you're most likely going to go just beside that car and then park the certain way, even if you had the possibility to park in any direction whatsoever in the ground. So those are the things that have changed who I am and how I think. So definitely would recommend.
That's awesome. So one book that I'm reading, which is pretty similar to Limitless,
Hmm.
is Mindset. And I
Uh-huh.
don't remember the author name. Like I read books very on an ad hoc basis. So I would read one chapter, and then 2 months later I would read another chapter, and then so on and so forth. And I
Hmm.
read a couple of books at one time. So I'm reading like three books right now. Like the pending books that I have are like not one. So in the mindset, the author is mainly talking about like the two different kind of mindsets. One
Hmm.
is the growth mindset and one is the fixed mindset,
Hmm.
and that like diving deep into that topic, that is like really something that we need to know as people who shape up the society,
Hmm.
and leaders, of course. So, anyone who is a parent, anyone who is a leader, anyone who's in any sort of role where you have subordinates working with you, I would suggest that that's the book you have to read,
Hmm.
or at least the summary of the book you have to listen to.
Hmm. Absolutely. And one of the things I'm trying to do quite a lot now is to not just ramp up books and not have like information overload. Because there's also something I learned from one of my mentors, that you need to stay with the book, because when you read a book, you sort of build a connection with the author, and that also brings up a question what kind of books you really want to read, because then it sort of connects with you. And then when you stay with the book, you think about that, you reflect on it. When you write summaries of it, like what the book tells you, it also sort of reinforces all that you have learned as well. So I'm trying to, right now, the most recent book I read was from a scholar named Omar Suleiman, and that is Allah Loves. And there are like 30 small things that he has mentioned that Allah really loves. And now I've decided to take a pause and then stick with the book before I jump on to the other one. And there are so many books in here. I can guarantee you I've not read all of them. Maybe 90% of them I've not even touched and see. So, yeah, it's not
I
as
love purchasing books as well. Like I
exactly.
love
I'm like,
that.
aha,
Every
this
time
looks so nice. I'm gonna read it,
yeah,
and then yeah, in the shelf. Classic.
definitely.
We also have another friend from Coda Labs, and he is Mohammed Salah. He says, former employee of Coda Labs, served there for 2.5 years. Last year, moved to UAE for seeking opportunities and doing well, alhamdulillah. But I never find an environment like Coda Labs. Interesting. That's super nice. And I think we should bring this back to Coda Labs. Um, One more thing that Salah says is, I must appreciate Riaz Bhai for supporting us and trusting us and having our back in most difficult times. Cannot be more grateful to Coda Labs for blessing me where I am right now. Oh, that's super nice.
This is the kind of success stories that I love. Like
Yeah.
yeah, like this is the kind of success stories that I want to create.
Hmm.
And, like I remember Salah, he was like a really special kid.
Hmm.
And I'm really glad that I've worked with people like Faizan and Salah.
Hmm.
They have taught me a lot. Really learned a lot from them, and I'm still learning from a lot of people who are joining Coda Labs as subordinates of mine, but they are so they have so much knowledge which I need to learn from them. So
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. But talking about success, every person has a different sort of definition of success. So when it comes to teams and businesses, how do you define success and impact?
um, So I think there are a couple of things that you have to think about when you're talking about success.
Hmm.
Like a lot of different authors and different speakers who talk about success, like Gary and other people I listen to. They always say that success is when you wake up and you're happy. You're not sad that you have to go to work. You have to do something. You have to do another thing, and those all those kind of things. But so what they believe is that success is knowing what's important to you, and then doing that important thing
Hmm.
on regular basis. But where I differentiate my views from that is that success is knowing what should be more important to you. It's not just knowing what's important to you, it's knowing what should be more important to you and
Hmm.
then doing that thing. Because sometimes we have fake idols, and we run after things which we don't actually want or need or shouldn't be important to us, but we think they are important to us, and although they give us temporary satisfaction and temporary happiness, but knowing what should be your goal, what should be your purpose,
Hmm.
and then working for that purpose, I think that's what success is. And yes, definitely, like when you wake up, it automatically tells you if you're successful or not.
Hmm.
If you're happy that you woke up and the night is gone, you're successful. If you're sad that the night is gone and you couldn't sleep more, I think that's when you need to revisit what you're doing wrong in your day. And it
Yeah.
is a scale, so you can be like happy or sad 1 to 10.
Mm, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. But what when we define success for teams as well, we know that teams have a constant sort of loop of trying to deliver versus also having the time to grow as individuals or as a team in terms of skill sets. So how do you balance in your teams the need for constant growth and innovation versus the pressure to deliver measurable results?
I think it's a balance that you have to create. It's a balance that every leader has to create, and sometimes your pivot point might swing left or right
Hmm.
because of the needs. But it's a balance that you have to continuously create. You have to deliver results. You have to meet the timelines. You have to create the impact. You have to help the customers, as well as you have to help the team, and you have to grow them. You have to allow them to experiment on different things.
Mm-hmm.
How I like to balance it is like, so one thing that I try myself, as well as I try to teach people to do it in their routine as well, is that I try to set aside some time to like look upon the things that I'm doing in my day,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
see which things can be optimized further, which things can I improve on, and that specific half hour or 1 hour is dedicated to me learning from my past, like maybe listening to recordings, listening to looking at the demos, looking at emails, looking at customer feedback. So all
Mm-hmm.
those things, I have a dedicated time every day, which I spend to learn and to improve. And I guide my team to do exactly that, so that they can improve as well as deliver results. And
Mm-hmm.
that improvement actually enhances how you deliver results as well.
Mm-hmm. And when is that time slot? Is it at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day?
So it depends whenever I get the time, but
Okay.
it's usually either at the very start of the day or at
Mm-hmm.
the very end of the day.
Hmm.
When I'm sitting late in the office, like sometimes when I have to sit late in the office, then I do it at the night, because
Hmm.
that point, I'm so I have everything in my mind that these are the things which I shouldn't be doing today, but I
Okay.
have to do it. So what
Hmm.
is that needs to be changed, so that I can focus on more important things. So I think
Interesting.
that time is something which is really necessary, and I think that keeps that balance,
Hmm.
or helps you to keep that balance in creating and delivering results, and creating innovation.
Okay, interesting. And so what we discuss is more from a theoretical perspective, but I also want to have like some practical examples. So in the fast-paced environments that we have today, how do you track the real-time impact of your team? How do you measure or monitor success of your team? And are there any tools or methods specifically to reevaluate and then go through?
I think this is a point where we are struggling, and that is something which I'm pondering upon these days,
Mm-hmm.
like how to measure success of teams.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a system that we are developing on Jira right now, which I believe will allow us to implement that system, and then we'll be able to understand how successful the team is getting, or the results that the team is creating. We are doing it through Jira, and we are trying to create story points for every task. Previously, we used to measure time, and the team had to log work hours, and based on those work hours, we decided like which team is producing how much results. But I think that's a very that's a very faulted way of measuring results. So what we are trying to do now is that we are trying to bring in such story points into
Mm-hmm.
our sprint, and every person is assigned with tasks and stories, and we at the end of the month want to measure how much story points have a person delivered, and based on those story points we can realize that this person has been producing this much results. So that's one metric of where we are measuring productivity. There
Mm-hmm.
are other components where we see, like for instance, customer satisfaction is another criteria which we have,
Mm-hmm.
and we look at the projects and how the customer has responded to those projects. One thing that we started doing like 2 years ago, when we started realizing about how necessary it is to create success and how necessary it is to add value to the customers, is
Mm-hmm.
that we now measure how many projects that we have done are actually helping the customers now.
Mm-hmm.
So in my past, what I've realized is that I've worked on several projects, maybe hundreds of them, but I've never ever cared about post production of those projects. Like
Mm-hmm.
those projects were delivered to the customers, we don't care about how customers work with those projects, and we move on to other projects. But now, what we have changed about the whole mentality of that side is like now we deliver. We don't deliver projects now; we deliver value. And if that project is getting used by the customer, only then we have delivered value. So if the right product is created, if the right product was designed for the customer, then it is going to be used by the customer, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how we are going to measure our impact that we have created as part of that collaboration. Um, So these are the two main things which we are focusing on these days.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is something which we are experimenting right now, but the second one is something which has made our business increase by a lot. And we have been going ever since adopting that thought process. Now our
And
customers don't ever end. Like there are a lot of customers who are working with us for years now.
interesting. And I also want to talk about the other side of the success as well, and that is the team success. So apart from story points, which also measure like how the teams are doing or are they productive, quote unquote, but then how do you measure success of the team itself, in terms of are they happy? For example, developer happiness is something that is also a key term when AI tools are marketing themselves. We have developer experience as well, and it sort of aligns with celebrating small wins as well. So do you, or how do you think it is important to celebrate these milestones or small wins or reflect on it doing retrospective? How do you ensure that the team is happy?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that we do to make like to celebrate wins of the teams, and then there are some other ways that we use to measure that the teams are happy.
Mhm.
One of the few things that I'm is starting to do from this month is like having interactions with individuals of the team at different places, at lunches, having exclusive lunch with people, having those kind of things, and our HR gets more involved with the team and see how much they are enjoying their job.
Mhm.
We are doing regular employee feedback surveys where they can raise their concerns and stuff, and these feedbacks surveys are anonymous, so we don't know who has put in what, so they can actually go in and put in whatever they want to.
Mm.
Then we have set aside a certain budget from our income to team celebrations, which is like they can go to different places. So how we have structured our teams in the Coder Labs is like we have set up tribes, and these tribes usually have like 10 to 12 people within them.
Mhm.
There is a project manager under which the team falls, and these teams are you can say small startups who are working on individual projects by themselves. So
Mm.
these are isolated startups which are not interacting with everyone. So these are very cohesive in their nature. So what we do is like every team gets a budget and they can go out. They can celebrate wins whenever they achieve something. They
Mm.
can go out even when they don't get any wins. They can go out and they can celebrate and release the stress that they have been having. And
Mm.
these events are not decided by the management. So I don't decide like when the team is going to go and to where that
Mm.
team is going to go.
Interesting.
That team decides when they want to celebrate their win and they go there.
Mm.
One thing, like although celebrating wins is really important, and the team needs to feel that they have accomplished something, but one thing that I always stress upon is like although celebrating win is important, you have to see how big of a win it is.
Mm.
So not over celebrating it is important as well.
Mm.
Not under celebrating it as well, but
Mm.
not over celebrating it as well
Mm.
is important, because then you lose the sight of what actual success means. And that
Yep.
is something which I have learned the hard way. When
Mm.
you start celebrating small wins like gigantic wins,
Mm.
you fail to lose that you lose you start losing that passion to create bigger wins.
Mm.
So that's pretty much like in a football season, you play match by match. You
Mm.
celebrate every match win, but when you
Mm.
celebrate the Champions Trophy, it's
Mm.
something different.
Yep.
So it needs to be something different.
Exactly.
That's what
And
I
you
personally.
don't forget the value of it because it
Yeah,
becomes too common then as well. So,
yeah, yeah.
mm.
So that's the overall point of view that we have, and there are a lot of things that we have to further implement,
Mm.
but we are taking it a step by step.
Mm. Absolutely. We've gotten a question in the chat as well, so we're going to take it. It's Ali Raza. He says, "Hey Riaz and Essen, Ali Raza here, former employee at Coda Labs, where I also started as an intern. My question to Riaz is, what is the most important leadership lesson you have learned that you think aspiring leaders should prioritize, especially in an organization where, like you, they began as interns and have now advanced to a senior director, for example?"
I think as a leader, you have to identify your stakeholders and you have to genuinely care about them. And that has been the biggest lesson that I have learned is that unless you start caring about the team, about your customers, about the people above you, you can't become a perfect leader.
Hmm.
And although I'm not like the perfect leader, but I think I'm on the right path. So I would say that care about people around you, and I think you'll find the right path. That is the compass that you need to follow. You have to care for people.
Hmm. Brilliant suggestion. Cool. We also have Sayyid Bilal Ali, who says, Salam, working with Riaz Bhai. I'm impressed by his one habit that he doesn't let the client pressure come on us, even if we do mistakes. He always have this calm nature, which is so aspiring for all of us. How do you manage that? And I'll just add a question of on top of it. Um, so it seems like you stay calm. Are you ever like, you stupid little person? What the heck are you doing? Or how do you manage it? That's a question.
I think so. One thing that has really, I think, a lot of people measure leadership skills or a lot of skills by IQ, but I think EQ is equally or more important,
Mm-hmm.
which is emotional quotient. You have to have empathy with people. So when you have built the right team, when you believe in your team, you know that the team hasn't done a mistake deliberately, or it wasn't because of their lack of skill set or lack of dedication or commitment. It's a genuine mistake. When you have
Mm-hmm.
built the right mindset around you, when the team is of the right mindset, like of course there are gonna be bad people, but when you have finally built the right team, you start to realize that and you have the empathy, you realize that the team hasn't done something stupid by thinking that it was a stupid decision. Everyone takes bad decisions. On the ground, it's always different. I know that because I've been a developer. So I know
Mm-hmm.
that although like there were mistakes which I did, like the first application which I built had no validations anywhere. So the first day RQA tested the application, she reported like 400 bugs, and that's when I realized that it was a mistake. And I would have thought that any leader who would have been seeing that those bugs would have like I don't know, fired me or something.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realized at that point was that even if I consider myself as a very skillful person, I can make mistakes. And those
Mm-hmm.
mistakes can, as long as those mistakes are teaching me something new, that is something which is going to grow me and make me better as well. So I apply the same mentality to the people as well, to the people in our team as well, that mistakes happen, but we have to move on from there. And although we can't commit the same mistake again and again, so we have to learn from those mistakes. And like everyone, I think everyone whom I have interacted with
Mm-hmm.
understands that psychology. So, like I only talk serious to someone when actually they make a mistake over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
same mistake getting repeated every time. So I think having empathy and knowing that that the other person didn't deliberately did it
Mm-hmm.
keeps me calm, and keeps my nerves calm. And I think I have learned a lot from football, by playing football. And what
Mm-hmm.
I've realized from playing football is that um, if you start like dwelling in the past, and if you start taking pressure, you won't perform to the optimal. You can make a comeback, you can always make a comeback, but you have to keep your nerves calm. And the captain of the team needs to keep the motivation aura
Mm-hmm.
for the team to for them to perform at their optimum. So I think that's what I practice, and I think I've gotten better at practicing that. It becomes natural to me now.
Mm.
So,
Interesting.
but
So
it's
imagine if I come to you with a let's say a product, and I want to build it with your team. How would you say you can help me grow and be successful? What is sort of going to be your pitch, or how would you monitor it? And assuming that most of the people that we have today in sort of these positions as a product owner, they are technically sound as well. So how would you convince them?
I think what we usually pitch is that we keep things transparent, and
Mm-hmm.
we call out your bad decision as well.
Hmm.
So if you're doing something which we think is wrong, we are going to come back to you and propose the right things that you need to do in your product.
Hmm.
So since everything is generated by value, like is driven by value, we tend to focus on the value rather than the customer itself.
Hmm.
And because the customer's goals are like combined with our goals, that's the main thing that we pitch to our customers, and we have been really successful with that as well.
Hmm.
Like when you talk to customer in a way that you'll be a hand in the dark,
Hmm.
they feel more confident on your skill set rather than when you tell them to hold our hand,
Hmm.
and like walk us through your process. So
Hmm.
that's something which we have learned over the years, and we have started implementing, and it's giving good results to us. So I think we are on the right track.
Interesting. And as a business, would you say that having a team that is really, really skillful would be the key? Because I can't imagine, being able to help out the customer in the dark
Of
if you
course.
don't really have the right skill set. So how do you ensure that they are growing in the way they should?
I think it depends upon like so. This is a thing which I believe in is
Hmm.
that my next day should be better than my previous day, and
Hmm.
I should be tracking the difference as well. So the only reason that I can know that my today is better than yesterday is the only way to track that is to measure the results that I have generated today versus the results that I was generating yesterday. So
Hmm.
always focusing um, on improvement, but tracking the results is something which helps us in getting better as
Hmm.
me as well as my teammates. So one thing that we started like an year and a half ago was to set up our business analyst team to help out customers,
Hmm.
and we were so new to that we didn't know anything about it, and the things that we did were experimental in the first few days, but since we is continued to grow from there, we started to build that skill set, and once we were confident on that skill set, we started pitching that skill set to our customers. So
Hmm.
initially we were giving it as a complimentary thing, then we started charging for it as we grow confident on it. And the thing that I learned from it was that continuous growth is actually needed.
Hmm.
And I think we are still not at the end here on business analyst side. We have to further grow on it. We are learning new things every day.
Hmm.
We are realizing new mistakes every day. But that's something which we have to continuously do.
Hmm.
So I think
Interesting.
setting up the right team is all about growing, having a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset.
Hmm. Absolutely. And before I take another question from the chat, I want to ask you how do you ensure that your team right now has sort of a whole idea of the long term vision or the wins that you really want within your team versus the short term wins as well, so they don't we touched upon it a bit, but how do you practically ensure that? Do you conduct meetings? Do you communicate constantly on Slack or Teams? What is the practical advice that you would give to have sort of a harmony within the team, that they know what is the short term and long term goal?
I think having collaborative sessions is something which I've observed that
Mm,
helped us a lot.
mm,
So we have collaborative sessions with teams pretty much every day. Like
mm,
a huge portion of my day goes into collaboration, and the messaging that you use in your collaborative meetings is something which sets the long-term goals. So if I'm talking about, let's say, if I'm talking about coding practices every day with the team, with everyone, people are going to automatically focus on coding practices. If
mm,
I'm going to focus on something else, people are going to focus on that automatically. If
mm,
I like continuously tell people that they are bad, they'll start to think that they're bad, or they'll start to fear that they'll come in my bad books if
mm,
I talk about it every day. So
mm,
when you talk, like what you talk about with your team, every day at lunch, at other places, in workstations, in collaborative meetings. That's what sets the long-term goals for the teams. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I was a very junior developer in Coder Labs, one thing that we always used to talk about was how good our code is, and that was the whole mission that became around my circle. Like I saw everyone aspiring to become a better developer, a better programmer, and we learned a lot from that mindset, and we grew a lot from that mindset. And then we talked about value and continued to talk about value. Now I feel that every person is actually working for value rather than working for output, as I like to put. Like they're working for outcome rather than output, because we have been continuously giving out that message. So it's more like a marketing tactic, like you see branding everywhere, and then you purchase that the product when it comes to your eyes. It's something similar. You have to talk about it continuously, and you'll automatically talk about it continuously if you're genuine about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are actually passionate about it, you'll automatically talk about it everywhere you go.
Hmm. It sounds like brainwashing, but in a good way, not to steal your
Yeah.
money.
It's
Yeah.
it's it's I call it positive propaganda.
Oh.
Like
Mm.
you're actually propaganda, like you're actually pushing these things in the mindset.
Mm.
But I think it helps. It helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And this brings to one of my last questions, and that is also a question that Said Bilal Ali has asked. That is, when we talk about success, we can't really leave failures on the other side, and also when we talk about the the sort of decisions that take you towards success, some of them are a bit tougher as well. For example, you could have a bad apple in the team that you want to, let go. Someone is holding your growth back, and sometimes you may not want to be as nice, but as you know, to improve someone, and you might be harsh on them, and those are the sort of tough decisions as well that someone has to take in a role as yours, for example. So, being what is said so far in this podcast, that you have a really calm nature, and you're very understanding as well. If you're in a high position and you have to go through some tough decisions, how do you ensure that, in terms of having having the mindset of going towards a bigger success, rather than letting go small wins in this case, or making someone unhappy?
I think it's really necessary for leaders to actually realize when you have to let someone go,
Hmm.
and when you have to keep that person and change him. So
Hmm.
what we do at Coder Labs is like we have a program for everyone who's underperforming.
Hmm.
We try to communicate as clearly as possible, like what's expected out of them,
Hmm.
and all the things that all the systems that we are trying to implement is to allow people to see how productive they are,
Hmm.
how impactful are they. And one of the things that we are trying to achieve is like a lot of people, like everyone, I believe that everyone in their mind is doing the right thing. Like
Hmm.
even the like Thanos wanted to do the right thing. So in his mind, he had justification. He had
Hmm.
a reason, and he had the justification. Unless you bring logic to the table and you give it clearly to that person,
Hmm.
you can't make that change. So what we
Hmm.
have done, like as part of the story point, what we are trying to do with
Hmm.
all of our processes is that um, self self measurement. We want to help people measure themselves,
Hmm.
and measure their productivity and measure their value that they are bringing to the table for the organization, for our customers, and everyone.
Hmm.
So that becomes the first pointer where people start to see that they are not producing as much as they should be,
Hmm.
because they can see how much they are producing. So
Hmm.
if you have like three kids, and you tell them to bring three apples to you, the person who brings the kid who brings one apple to you
Hmm.
is automatically going to know that he hasn't done the job right.
Hmm.
So setting some processes which clearly like showcases that, is helpful as the
Hmm.
first step. When it happen, when that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen, and the person needs help in understanding that, we try
Hmm.
to set up a meeting and try to clear out the objectives that we have for him, the expectations we
Hmm.
have for him, and see how much is he improving or she is improving in the next few months. And
Hmm.
if the improvement is not there, then we like very respectfully and very politely guide them that there might be some other opportunities which would want to pursue.
Hmm.
Maybe Coding Labs is not the right fit for you.
Hmm.
Like there can be a lot of people, like I personally think that I wouldn't have been this successful in
Hmm.
my journey if I were in another company,
Hmm.
because there is a company culture, there is a company chemistry that you have with your company. So we try to guide them that there might be other opportunities that they would want to see, because it's not just hurting our growth if that person is staying with us, it's
Hmm.
hurting their growth as well.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of discussion which I would say resolves this kind of problem
Hmm.
in a very healthy way.
Yeah.
Um, and then we try to like help them in actually searching for the right jobs as well. So
Hmm.
it's not like we just tell them to go away. We continuously connect with them. We try to pitch it to other companies which we see as the right fit. We actually try to guide them into the right career shifts as well.
Hmm.
So there have been people who were working as managers in Coder Labs, and then they started working as developers somewhere else, because we guided them that this is not the right path for you. You
Hmm.
might be like, you can't judge, like what Einstein says. You can't judge how good a fish is by its ability to climb the tree.
Hmm.
So there might be the wrong fit for the role or position, which they can find the right fit in the market. So I
Hmm.
think it helps in that conversation. And when ultimately, I think when you are trying to add value and have empathy and genuinely care about people, you automatically come to good conclusions with everyone.
Hmm.
Like all the people who I have let go of in the past are still connected to me, and I think they still respect me, and I respect them as well, and
Hmm.
we are on very good terms.
Hmm.
Like, and I think they are one of like my good friends as well.
Hmm.
So I think that's the most important thing. You have to genuinely care about people.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I can see we are running out of time, but I think we probably would go 10 minutes more. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. So I want to touch upon this concept where if things are really going wrong in a team, and be it deliveries going wrong, be it productivity. From my years of experience, I've understood that 99% of the time it's not the person, but it's the process that should be changed, or that should be looked upon and reflected upon. Would you agree to that?
I think I agree to an extent.
Hmm.
I see that a lot of people are actually suffering because of the process, because they don't get the right process. But
Hmm.
I tend to think that there's a top 20% here,
Hmm.
there's a bottom 20%, and then there's mid 60%.
Hmm.
So the top 20% are the people who are going to perform either way. If you
Hmm.
don't give them any process, if you give them all the processes,
Hmm.
their performance is going to be top notch.
Hmm.
I tend to think that mid 60% are the people who actually will benefit from the process, and
Hmm.
their productivity and their impact is going to increase by having the right processes.
Hmm.
But then there is a bottom 20% who are not impacted by the process. And no matter if you have a process, if you don't have a process, no matter what kind of structure you have, those are the people who are not gonna work well for you, and those are the people who you have to have tough discussions with. And I
Uh-huh.
think, like, what I have noticed in those people, in my experience, is that those people are the wrong fits. They are doing some things which, like, they are trying to do things which they are not passionate about, and
Hmm.
they are just doing it for the reasons which doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
So someone's doing it because developer market is very rewarding,
Hmm.
which doesn't make sense, because they
Hmm.
can actually earn a lot more if they are in marketing, or if they are in product, or if they are in somewhere else.
Hmm.
So I think those are the kind of people who, no matter what you give to them,
Hmm.
they still perform below the average
Hmm.
because they are the wrong fits rather
Hmm.
than the right person for the job.
Hmm. That makes perfect sense. We do have a question from the chat, and it's the last one. That is, Assalamu alaikum. My question for both: what advice would you give to someone in a senior engineering role like me on how to effectively measure and demonstrate the impact of the technical contributions, both for project success and career growth? So I think it's more like how would you measure and then show it to the stakeholders, so to say.
I think you have to, again, like when I say that you have to have empathy for your team, you have
Hmm.
to have empathy for your management and your customers as well.
Hmm.
And when you have empathy for them, you'll start to see what they really care about. So, for instance, your management might be expecting you to complete the project within timeline, be it like not the perfect product in the world, but the time is right now, and you have to launch it as soon as possible.
Hmm.
So having understanding what they really want or what they really care about helps you demonstrate the impact that you have.
Hmm.
So, for instance, what a mistake that I used to do as a developer was like wanting to write the perfect code. And what was the hindrance in that is like sometimes I used to miss deadlines or I had to sit late until late
Hmm.
to meet the timelines. And then I used to handle the corner cases which weren't needed in the first place to be handled. And the
Hmm.
project delivery was the first priority, but I didn't know that. So I think knowing where the value lies and understanding where the value lies is the biggest thing and the first step. Once you have realized what the value is, you can do all the things and you can find all the material on the internet to get to that value.
Hmm.
And you know, as part of like as a senior developer like Baba, I personally know him to be really good.
Hmm.
I know that he knows how to get the objectives, but one thing that you have to understand is identifying the objectives, and
Hmm.
those objectives shouldn't be based on your thought process or your wants. It should be based on management and customer wants.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Understanding what the stakeholders need are, and also having the tools in place as well, so you can measure and show those things. So I think if they're more interested towards timelines, it's useless to talk about the code quality or
Exactly.
a peer review process, blah blah blah. But if they're more interested in how many bugs we have solved, or if the team is happy, then those are the kind of things. And I think it always boils down to the time, as you mentioned, that in your day you take some time to reflect on or make sure what's important as well. And I often give this example as well, that we in this fast paced world today, we go in a situation where we go to the forest every day to chop trees, but we don't have the time to sharpen the axe. So we have to take that time to first understand everything and then essentially deliver that.
Yeah, this reminds me of a quotation from Imam Jafar Sadiq.
Hmm?
I don't remember the exact quotation, but it's something along these lines that you have to reflect upon your whole day when before sleeping at night.
Yeah.
So that's a habit which has helped me a lot. If
Hmm.
you just set aside like 15 minutes or 10 minutes while you are on bed,
Hmm.
don't use Facebook, don't use TikTok. Just think about the day that you have spent, all the actions that you have taken, and the reason for those actions.
Hmm.
If you start doing that, I think it helps a lot.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. So, one final thing, what would be your one advice for the tech leaders who are listening today on crafting success stories and measuring the right kind of impact in their leadership journey? What would you say where they can start?
I think I've already talked about it a lot, and I have been saying the same word again and again. It looks like an SEO thing,
Hmm.
but I think it's you have to care about people. That's the
Hmm.
biggest thing as a leader.
Hmm.
I read somewhere recently that leaders care,
Hmm.
and that's the only thing that leaders do.
Hmm.
So leaders care about their mission, their purpose, their people, their followers, their stakeholders. They care about everyone around them, and that's
Hmm.
what makes them leaders. So as long as you are caring about people and you're genuinely caring about people, you're automatically gonna go in the right direction. That's the compass that you have to have.
Hmm. Absolutely. Great advice. With that said, I think we are going to wrap up this session for today. It was really nice having you, Riaz. Always interesting talking to you, and I hope we meet when I come to Pakistan late in November.
Definitely, definitely.
Awesome.
I might not be here when you come, but definitely.
Okay, we'll see. But yeah, this is not the last time we're meeting in this podcast format as well. I think we're how do you say, there's more juice in you that we want to squeeze out, and I think the next time we are going to talk more about marketing and the strategies that you use, because it's fascinating how many things you have been doing through the years, and I think it's going to be very beneficial for our audience as well. So with that
I'm still
said,
a
yeah.
student. I'm still a student at marketing. I don't know much, but
Lifelong learning is what I hear. Yeah, absolutely. But thank you for joining, and thank you everyone who joined online as well and asked questions. If you like this sort of podcast, and if you want someone for us to bring to the podcast, ask questions, please write in the comments, reach out to me on LinkedIn, of course. And I would love to discuss with more people who are in the leadership roles or in the business marketing domain as well. With that said, thank you everyone for giving your time on a lovely